Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Thanks for attending, everybody. Really appreciate it. Um, if you do have any questions during today's presentation, please chat them and I'll address them all at the end. Also be recording today's webinar, so I'll send it out to everybody who registered and attended and those that registered and were unable to attend. We'll make sure we get that out to you. So let's go ahead and get started. So my name's Mark Sneider. I'm owner and president of RSW and RSW Agency Search. Just a little bit about me, my background. Started my career at DDB Needham in Chicago, where I'm from. Went back to graduate school at Northwestern, so it brought me to Cincinnati, and then spent the next 10 years working in consumer packaged goods marketing before I made a move over to a global research firm where I was managing their domestic operations. And Colgate-Palmolive was my big client. We did a lot of new product concept testing and ad testing for them. And then started RSW in 2005. And for those of you that don't know, RSW basically has three components to it. The primary piece of our business is RSW US, an outsourced agency new business firm, one of the largest, if not the largest in the country. We represent about 50 agencies across the US of varying types and sizes, and simply put, just operate as their outsourced business development team. Have a separate business that I manage called RSW Agency Search. Our model is unique, and the uniqueness of that model is what attracts the likes of Jack in the Box, Aspen Dental, Mercy Health, um, Wind Creek Casinos, among others, into the fold, looking for new and better agencies. And that side of the business helps inform the agency new business side of our business. I started that in 2010. We've managed about 40 searches since the start of that business, and have sat in 120 final pitch presentations, and have sat in or developed and reviewed probably close to 400 RFIs, and so that insight and perspective, I think, helps us on the agency new business side. And then lastly, we have a list offering called RSW List. It's a self-service website. Over the last 15 years of our business, we've built up a pretty sizable database of about 50,000 contacts that agencies can go in and buy one or buy hundreds on the RSW List website. So let's go ahead and get rolling. So the survey, the 2020 Agency New Business Survey, was pushed out to roughly 5,000 agencies, targeting primarily principals and agency new business leaders, and it was pushed out nationwide and Canada as well. So what we hope you'll walk away with today, hopefully about 4 or 5 things you can do to improve your chances of winning new business now and as we roll into 2021. Hoping that we can help build up some confidence. Obviously, these last 6 months have been pretty trying. Hoping we can build up some confidence, in your ability to plow ahead, continue to either continue or start a new business program, and then certainly insights into what marketers are looking for in a winning agency is something else we hope you walk away with today. So, new business has always been, a challenge for agencies, regardless of the year or the decade. Those that are really successful at it really commit themselves to it, regardless of the tactics they use to achieve that success, whether it be something they manage inside their four walls or turn outside, to a firm like ours or some other means. We see it here in our new business programs for agency clients, those that are focused, where there's commitment, where there's collaboration, all those things are keys to success. And it's the agencies that hire us that think they can get it all, we can get it all done on our own and commit little to a program, are those that tend to have a harder time succeeding. And the same is true if an agency is managing its inside its four walls, if there isn't commitment from the top, if you're not focused on it, if there isn't consistency, those programs are going to break down. And the activity of finding and winning new business, was only getting harder as the changing market made it more difficult. We've got ROI pressures. Everything that a marketer does is not literally, but measured for its performance. You've got company consolidation, which lessens the number of companies that are out there for you to pursue. You've got marketer ranks shrinking, fewer marketers working with fewer resources. So you have fewer marketers moving from company to company, bringing you along. And you have more larger agencies going after smaller pieces of business. So, throw on top of that your need, probably more so today, given the pandemic than in the years past, your need to keep current clients happy. And it really all throws you into sort of this proverbial cobbler's children syndrome mode, where you can't do anything for yourselves because you're doing everything for everybody else. So we've seen this constancy through the years of struggles in new business. Some years are better than others. Obviously, it got pretty difficult in 2008 with the recession, got a bit better, but over the past years, it slowly started ticking back up again. And so now, we can take, so now we can take an activity that already was pretty difficult, and throw on top of that all our friend COVID, and it really, mucks things up. Many agencies we talk with, including clients, walked into this year feeling like it was going to be a solid year, including us. And then, like most, we felt that the world was ending, which frankly it wasn't. It just became more difficult to manage through. And as we see here, this year hasn't been an easy one for firms. 67% of agencies state that obtaining new business in 2020 has been harder or much harder than it has been in years past. And we can really blame it all on COVID. 80% of agencies point to COVID as a reason why it's harder to obtain new business. Typically we see fewer opportunities and harder to break through as ranking on top at higher levels than they're appearing this year. But COVID is sort of the pointed to reason as to why things have not performed as well and haven't been as efficacious in terms of new business productiveness and effectiveness as they have in the past. 71% of firms say it has had a rather dramatic impact on the productiveness and efficacy of their new business efforts. And really, in their minds, kind of causing a decrease in the number of opportunities out there. We had clients coming to us, on the edge, just freaked out about the situation, wanting to pause or stop. And in the majority of the cases, we encourage clients to sort of push through it. In some cases, had to help some out financially, but encourage them to push through it. And we've seen, over the last 6 months, meeting counts remain high. We've seen the number of wins remain at or above pre-COVID levels. What we've seen is a shrinking in the absolute dollar volume of those wins, which you would kind of expect as sort of marketers were holding back on their spends or the significance of their spends. So the business was out there. Things weren't slowing down, in terms of our activity, but definitely agencies felt the impact of it. And despite all of the challenges, I think the outlook is good. I'm seeing it among our agency clients. Just brought a new firm on who felt that shared with me the first 6 months of this year were really bad, and over these last few months are starting to really see things make a turn for the better, and expect this year, to kind of be a net even, which is good for them, and they're happy with that. But we're definitely starting to see agencies turn a corner, and we've got 56% of agencies here pointing to the fact that they believe that they're going to see increases in the number of new business opportunities as they roll into the balance of this year and move into next. So, overall, I think the outlook is pretty positive. And, fortunately, as we roll into 2021, there are only a small percentage of you that are dealing with the additional challenge of that 2,000-pound gorilla, or, that elephant breathing down your neck. And it's never a good position to be in. I've seen it cloud judgment, create a sense of desperation. As soon as you see it happening, a growing percentage of one client, do something about it. Too often agencies get all consumed by bigger clients and don't take the time to dedicate themselves to diversification. And start when you least think you need new business, because it takes time to close. It's rare that things move quickly, particularly in the business climate that we're operating in today. And if you pause your outreach during COVID, you haven't turned it back on, turn it back on. New business outreach should never stop, as it did for the vast majority of our agency clients. What changed was how we approach those prospects, how we message to them, how we showed empathy, and eventually that went away, and there's a measure of normalcy now in terms of how we're reaching out to the prospects that we're reaching out to. In fact, what many agencies recognized was a need to start a new business development program, realizing that they couldn't hide their way through the pandemic. You have to set yourself up for success. Waiting to start it up when the time is right is a risky strategy, because there's never a perfect time to start, and it's never a good idea to stop, even when you're in the middle of a global pandemic. So not only is patience key, but so is your approach when trying to win new business. Don't make your prospect feel like you're trying to win their business. Make them feel like you want to be their value added partner. There's a difference there. I tell our clients that you need to approach relationships and the overall process of new business, but by not thinking you want to be the marketer's communication partner or creative partner, but think about it in the context of being their business partner. Marketers, again, they're resource strapped, they're looking for help. They want to partner with agencies that can sit alongside them and help them strategically move their business ahead. So change the way you're thinking about it, change the way you think about new business, because bringing that to the table through every step of the process is important. And you need to do it, when trying to win a prospect's business, and then obviously need to do it ongoing as you maintain that relationship. We've asked this question virtually every year of the 15 years we've been in business, thinking about the last time you reviewed new agencies to bring one on board. Why did you decide to review? And unfortunately, these four things show up every single year. Lack of proactivity, not happy with strategy. Of course, creative's going to play a role. Wanted ideas. I say there are two primary reasons marketers come to us on the agency search side looking for new firms. They feel like their agency isn't keeping them ahead of the curve. They can't put their finger on it, but they've got other agencies calling them, talking about things they haven't heard before. They get emails from other agencies talking about things they haven't heard from their agency before, and they feel like their agency is just becoming a doer agency and not a thinking agency. The other reason is one day they wake up and they feel like, geez, I've been bringing all these ideas to my agency, asking them for their point of view, and I don't think they've done that, bringing ideas to us ever. And so being in a position where you can be proactive, show your current client that you're not just there to manage their business on a creative level or a communication level, but you're there to help them, move their business ahead. And that's going to help sustain those relationships. It's also critical that you bring that mentality, that thinking into every step of the new business development process, from the very beginning, all the way through to the very end. So always make it about the prospect, starting when you pick up that phone and you start calling folks. Don't just use the subject lines of checking in or following up, all the things that software salespeople and other salespeople do. Make it about them when you're in that meeting or in that intro call with them. Come to the table asking good, smart questions, have them talking 80% of the time, draw insights from them and try and move them to a second meeting where you can begin to paint the path forward for them. Um, as you nurture that prospect down the line, send them the occasional link to an interesting article or blog post. Again, show them that you're there to bring value, not just there to win their business, because marketers just in general feel like you all talk too much about yourselves. It's the easy thing to do to walk into a meeting and open the PowerPoint presentation, or get on the phone and just talk about your capabilities. If you do that, you're just going to sound and feel like everybody else. What we have to remember is what marketers want during first meetings or first calls, and these come from open-ended responses in the surveys that we run. Marketers tell us that they want ideas on how you're different from other agencies. They want you to ask questions. They want you to demonstrate strategic understanding before throwing your creative in front of them. They want to see a curiosity about their business. They want to see thought leadership. They want you to be open to their ideas as well as presenting your own. They want to see proven capabilities, thinking and passion, new unique solutions, and honesty. So those are all the things that marketers want during first meetings and first calls. And this is what they tell us they typically get. They get the agency's opinion. They get creative highlights before strategy. They get a portfolio of past work, often just a sales pitch on how great the agency is, not enough about what you can do for the client. Maybe some cool examples that aren't tied to their real world because they're not the multi-million-dollar spenders, and they get a lot of marketing speak. So we try and get our clients to sort of think about the world a little bit differently, go at it the way everybody else isn't going at it, and make it about that prospect and not just about you, the agency. So I'm sure you're saying to yourself, yeah, okay, great, Mark, all sounds good, but who the heck has the time to do any of this? And with many mid to smaller size agencies, I realize, you just don't have as much time. Resources aren't as plentiful. You're dedicating more senior level talent to manage existing clients, to keep them happy. Often the manner in which new business comes to smaller agencies is different. They're just fewer reviews. So, you're just at you would think, a slight disadvantage. But because of this, I think the general level of satisfaction with new business programs isn't as high as it is for larger firms. In larger firms, there's a tendency for them to have more than just a new business person, but a new business team supporting the effort, building lists, doing research, developing content. Obviously, it's just tougher for smaller firms to manage this. But that said, I think smaller firms have an advantage, particularly in this business climate. As things like trade shows stop and big reviews decline, bigger firms have found it difficult to adjust as they don't have the infrastructure to manage it differently. They don't have the right skill sets to operate in a world with fewer reviews, less networking, fewer AOR opportunities, and more project opportunities. Smaller firms can be more nimble and flexible and more easily take on smaller projects to get doors open. The key is just finding the way in. And unfortunately, there's no magic bullet. You need to treat a new business outreach program like you would treat creating a campaign for your client. It needs to be integrated across platforms. You just can't just use LinkedIn as an example, or can't just send out the postcard and hope people call. Everything has to work in tandem. You just never know what people are going to be most receptive to. So you need to be present everywhere they turn, and need to be there always. And I'm a big believer in redundancy, so I don't have a problem in our program mailing a prospect a beautiful brochure and then following with an e-version of that brochure. As long as you're polite in your persistence and your outreach, you're going to be in good shape. It's not atypical from past year surveys. Agencies use just about everything to find and win new business. Referrals and networking are and have always been the source of most of an agency's new business. But as the market has changed, so has the volume of that activity. Often agencies come to us realizing that the pool of opportunities isn't quite as plentiful as it's been in the past, and they realize that things need to change. So just like you shouldn't wait until that giant client becomes all consuming, don't play the hope strategy and hope that referrals and networking are going to come back, because it's unlikely. Sure, trade shows are going to return, but the game has changed because of COVID, and what may have been effective in years past isn't going to be nearly as effective moving forward. So you need to, if you're not doing it now, you need to start thinking about it differently. And if you want to win, you've got to step out of the cobbler's mentality and pay attention to what your prospects are seeing. Starting with your work and successes. I suspect that part of the reason why larger agencies are more satisfied with their new business program is because they're better prepared and more on top of what they need to be successful. It's not uncommon for a smaller, mid-sized agency to let things like case study development fall by the wayside, or only address it when an RFP response is due. It's rare that we see a new agency client who really has it all together. Creating and using case studies to support your value is key. Just as an aside, if you're interested, we've got a great ebook we created on case study development on our site. It provides a reader with lots of very useful information on best practices for creating effective case studies. And while you're in the mode of reevaluating your case studies, maybe take a look at your website through the eyes of your prospect. Think about it in the context of that marketer coming to your site and looking at your site for the first time. Because most new clients we work with walk into a relationship with their website sort of looking this way, only somewhat or not at all optimized to win new business, not optimized for UX or messaging. You have to take a look at your website through the eyes of the marketer. You have to make it easy for them to find things. You have to clearly communicate not only your value, but who you are and what you do, and do it in as compelling and as differentiating a way possible. A new client of ours just came on board. The top of their homepage says nothing about who they are or what their value prop is. It's a showcase of an ad, but it really says nothing about them that's going to cause me as that marketer to want to learn more about that firm. Your site is one of the first places your prospects will visit. And if they can't tell what you are and they can't easily find what they want, like work in their category, and if they see a lot of content that's dated and it's all about you, the agency, and not about them, it's going to be hard to win the day. So just take the step back and think about what your site is saying to the marketer, and ask yourself if it's working as hard as it can to help you make the sale. Just one other note, you can also find another ebook that we created on agency website best practices. Some great content in there developed by a marketing communication team at RSW. So you can't win if you don't play properly, and you can't win if you only put effort into opening doors without making it a thoughtful, value-added exercise that continues well beyond the initial engagement. And this is so key. How you look today could potentially be a reflection of how you're going to operate tomorrow. You have to operate at 110% throughout the entirety of the new business development process. From the moment you pick up the phone to the moment you meet with that prospect or have a longer phone conversation with them, all the way through your nurturing of that prospect and working with them down the line to close. Perfect example of where this can break down. Started the agency search business in 2010, have run 40 searches since the start of that business. when we narrow down our selection to the final three agencies, we have a Q&A chemistry call where each agency is allowed to talk with the marketer and ask questions about the business and questions about expectations for that final pitch presentation. It's an information gathering step in the process. And there have been two situations in the 40 searches we've run where the agencies came in so ill prepared, talking over each other, diving down into the weeds, that the marketer at the end of that Q&A chemistry call said, despite the fact that it was informational and not evaluative, said, if these guys are going to operate this way in this 40-minute call, what does that mean when I bring them on board? And so you always have to be on your game throughout the entirety of the process. You have to be thinking about bringing value and showing that prospect, the way I'm operating today really is a reflection of how I'm going to potentially operate tomorrow. And we have to build the confidence and make them feel that way. And in today's environment, you can't just yell and tell and sell. You got to walk into these conversations with good, smart questions. Use those questions to let the prospect see you understand them and their category. You have to put the right program in place, the right messaging in place, and the right person in place. Just any old salesperson with the Rolodex or the same old messaging, simply isn't going to do. And the challenge is, that often what agencies think is unique isn't all that differentiating. Marketers see a lot of sameness across firms. Finding your focus, defining the reasons why marketers would want to meet with you. And it isn't because you're hardworking and smart and strategic. These are all things you can demonstrate when you have more time to talk with them. But when trying to break through, if you want them to engage with you, it's going to take more than just the same messaging that, so many other firms use. And you need to do it with a new business approach that brings value to the experience for the prospect. Again, I sound like a broken record, but across the entirety of the continuum of new business. So when you build that program, build it with longevity and value in mind. Don't shortcut your hires. Don't shortcut your process or your dedication to it. We have to remember, again, how you look today is a reflection of how you might operate tomorrow. So show them good stuff throughout the entirety of the process. So now what? Kind of throwing a lot at you here. Need to get that house in order if you feel it isn't. Need to start that new business program if you haven't. If you've paused it, get it back in gear. We have had more new agency clients come on board this year because they realize that they need to get something going. So if you haven't started a program, definitely move on it and think about the following to put on your to-do list. The first being make your site work for you, not against you. Make it clear to that prospect who you are, what your value prop is. Make sure it's easy for that prospect to find the work that's relevant to them. Don't make them work hard to be convinced that you're the right firm for them. Turn your case studies into selling machines. I don't need a 5-page case study. I need a 1-page case study that simply outlines a challenge and your solution and showcases in a big, bold way your successes and presents your work in a beautiful context and just makes it simple for that prospect to digest and understand the value that you can bring to them. So they don't need to be overthought or overblown. They just need to simply tell your story and make it meaningful for that prospect. And take a fresh look at your messaging. Would someone flying blind, into your website know who you are? Or when you send them something, do they get it? Do they understand what you do and what makes you better? So again, kind of like your website, look at across the context of your content and the collateral that you're using, and make sure that it's consistent and that it is easily communicating your value and what you do to that prospect. Again, integrate your outreach. I mentioned it before. It's okay to be redundant. It's okay to share the same messaging with the prospect. As long as you're polite and smart and thoughtful about it, you're going to be okay. and constantly bring value, because few others are. It's easy to just send out the mass email and not think about the prospect. The hard part of the game is to reach out with relevancy and make that prospect believe that you're thinking about them. I had a new business director just the other day who started with a client about a month and a half ago, and the prospect said to the client that I typically don't open up these emails, but there was something thoughtful about the subject line and then ultimately about the contents of this email that engaged me and made me want to read more. And that's what you want your prospects to do. You want them to feel like you're thinking about them. Obviously there's a fine line and there's a balance that you have to strike between, diving deep into every single prospect and wanting to go after a large number of prospects, but you can find that balance and find little nuggets that you can drop into a prospect's world that can make them feel like they're special and that you're interested in them. And adjust your expectations, lengthen your time horizon. This isn't a short-term game. So if you bring a new business director on board, know that it's going to potentially take some time to get the job done. But you've got to make sure they're armed with the materials they need, the team that backs them up, to really help them achieve the objectives that you're trying to achieve. Again, find the right people, the right team. This isn't about selling. Make them feel like you're not out to win their business, but really there to help them, move their business forward. When a new client comes on board over here at RSW, I have a webinar I give called Getting the Close that sort of frames our world. And one of the things I talk about in the context of that presentation is Leo Burnett's valediction speech that he gave to his agency in 1967 as he was leaving the firm. And if you read that speech, it talks a lot about bringing value and reminding his agency that that's how they got to where they got to, by constantly not thinking about it as a job, but being a partner with your agency client. And that, is true of ongoing relationships and how you maintain them and how you prevent yourself from being the agency that's called out for being a doer agency and not a proactive firm. But it's also true in the new business development world as well. Again, that how you look today is a reflection of how you're going to operate tomorrow. If you can bring value and show that prospect all along the continuum that you're a different firm and you're thinking about it differently, takes a lot of work, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to really pay dividends for you. So want to thank you all, and I'm just going to take a minute here. Let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, thanks for sharing that on me. Yeah, we had about, I think it was close to about 200 folks that completed the survey, if my memory is serving me correctly. I thought I saw somebody else pop something in here, but maybe not. Let me just take a look. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Well, that's okay. Let's see. When was the survey sent? It was, what are we are in September here. It was sent in August, I believe. So pretty, not too long ago. And we were pretty quick about putting the survey report together. I spent a weekend writing it myself. So yeah, we were pretty quick about pulling it together and pretty timely in getting it out to agencies. So if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and send this recording out, and certainly appreciate the time. If you want to visit our site, it's rswus.com. We've got a lot of great content on there to help you, help yourself. If you want to talk about agency new business, love talking about it, you can reach out to me. Happy to have a conversation with you. And a question from participant: do you feel that clients are planning now for 2021? Absolutely. I've have heard from our new business directors on status of meetings that their clients have had. their agency clients have had with prospects, and people are talking 2021. So absolutely, I get in there now. I think it's really no different than any other year, but I think, because maybe monies haven't been spent to the great degree they have in the past, they're definitely thinking about how am I going to come out of COVID, and what are my moves forward. So if you can help them with that, that would be great. And another question: do I see budgets increasing or decreasing? I see budgets increasing as we move forward. Again, we've seen the same number of wins among our clients in COVID than we did pre-COVID, but we saw dollar amounts go down a bit. So I see that, only increasing. May not be exponentially as we roll into the first quarter, but I certainly see, that getting better. Do you see in-house agencies being more of a threat? Actually, I don't think so. There was an article that I read today about, I think it was BBDO winning the AARP AOR business. That's a lot of alphabet or letters there, but winning the AARP AOR business. And I swear AARP had an in-house agency for a while, and they were actually out there trying. I remember them calling us on the agency business side, talking to us about the possibility of representing them. So in-house agencies are going to always be there. I don't think that that's going away, and you need to know how to work with them. But do I see it being a growing threat? No, I don't. I think because of thinning ranks, they've let people go. They're working with less. I think it opens up the door more for agencies, particularly smaller, mid-size agencies that can operate a little bit more nimbly. Let's see, with COVID impact on in-person meetings, what things can agencies do? Yeah, Zoom. I'm sure y'all love Zoom because you're probably on it all the time, or maybe sick of it. But a lot of our clients are using Zoom now for first meetings with prospects. I think it's a good way to go. I have had some clients. I've got one up in Portland. They go after stuff locally. A prospect wanted to meet with them face to face. They're going to keep their social distance, and the agencies agreed to meet. So seeing a little more of that, but a lot of phone calls still. Maybe second meeting moving to a Zoom where you can do some screen sharing and stuff. To more traditional media. Do I see a trend of more traditional media? I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't see traditional media going away, but I think it's really marketers thinking more about the integration of all media. But I don't know that I would say that a trend towards more traditional necessarily. I think it's, I've seen some agencies sort of turn a blind eye towards traditional media and think that the world is going all digital. But marketers, and I know in our past surveys, definitely value traditional media, see it being as a benefit to their business, but see it within the context of an integrated program. So let's see. And I saw a question. So George, you added a question, but I'm not seeing it in the chat, so I don't know where it is. I apologize. Cool. Well, anything else? Again, really appreciate your time. Some great questions, and hopefully this has been helpful. Again, happy to talk with folks. Happy. All of our content on our site is free, so there's a lot of good stuff there. We've been pushing good value-added content out for the last 15 years, and so feel free to grab whatever you want, and hopefully it can be of some benefit to you. So, George, if you want to shoot me a note separately, I can go ahead and answer those questions. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing them in the chat. And oh, there we go. Okay. So, are you finding it easier to connect with prospects since they are housebound? Actually, some degree, yes. And direct phone numbers are sometimes hard to come by. When you get auto replies, sometimes they drop their cell phones in there. Even if we get an attendant in a company, we're going to leave voicemails. We're going to use it as another touch point. but they're somewhat landlocked. They're not tied up in as many meetings. So we have, over the last 6 months, found it to some degree a little bit easier to break through to folks. That's why I think our meeting counts, have been at or higher, during this period than they have pre-COVID. So yeah, it's a good question. Cool. All right. Well, listen, thanks everybody. And, if you have any questions, let me know. Today is Wednesday. So I hope you have a great rest of the week. And thanks again for attending. All right. Take care, everybody.